Any other announcements this morning?
I have an announcement. Out front, there is a paper for the women's retreat. Put your name on it, and if you sign online or anything, put on there that you signed up online. I'm going to try to get all the papers in by March the 1st. It's $75 to March the 5th, but by the time you get to the computer and all that stuff, I'll make sure you have enough time. And after that, it's $10 more. And so if you haven't never been, it's a wonderful time. We're right by the tabernacle. We're going to stay in Comanche. So if you've never been, ladies, you're missing out on a blessing. It's a lot of fun. But I was looking for my glasses. I brought my glasses this weekend. And so I have my prescription here. I found this paper, and this is for parents. We were at a retreat someplace. I don't know if it was youth or if it was women's retreat or something. But this made sense to me. When your child is giving you trouble and mouthing off to you, just to say, God gave you to me, and He expects me to raise you the best of my ability. So, if you have a problem, take it up with Him, because I'm tired of listening to you. That is, I always said that, and it makes a lot of sense, because God gave you these things to us, and you're supposed to do the best you can. So, if they argue with you, take it up with God. Women's class. Oh, tomorrow night is the women's group. So remember, tomorrow night we'll be doing Matthew. I'm going to need a lot of help because I can't hardly read these. And so anyway, we'll be, I think it's Matthew 6 that we're on. And remember to bring food.
Any other announcements? Good reading the Sunday school report. We have 3 visitors this morning and 60 total. And the offering is $426. Birthdays or wedding anniversaries? Birthdays and wedding anniversaries.
We got one. Yeah, we got a birthday.
pray for this offering, Father. Thank you so much, Father, for our Savior. And Heavenly Father, we pray for those in the prayer list, those that are lifting up to you. And Father, I pray for our pastor brings forth to the Lord. Heavenly Father, we pray for men and women that they can give you around the world right, the blessings and you can need. And Father, we pray that you strengthen your people, Father, your children. And Father, just let us know how much that you really love us, Father. And Father, just I know the burdens on people's hearts, troubles and trials, Father. But even here in this church family, I just ask that you just lift them up for him, Father. Right. Father, I pray for this service that you worship like you truly should be with you. You can praise and glory, Christ, in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Last week, Carl preached on spiritual warfare. That's kind of what this shirt is about. Is armed and dangerous. You might think, right, it's the army or something. Well, I'm thinking army. This is the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God, pulling down strongholds. Amen. Right here, the log tag says, fight the good fight of faith. 1 Timothy 6:12. That's kind of what this song is about. When the armor will enter the land, the battle belongs to the Lord. The weapon is fashioned against us will stand. The battle belongs to the Lord. And we sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. We sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. The enemy presses and hard to not fear. The battle belongs to the Lord. Take courage, my friend, your redemption draws near. The battle belongs to the Lord. And we sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. hard like a flood. The battle belongs to the Lord. He's raised us a standard, the power of His blood. Power belongs to the Lord. And we sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. And we sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. The battle's His. Amen. He just uses us in prayer. And that's what we need to do. Pray for all these things because there's power in prayer. Amen. And we sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. We sing glory, honor, power and strength to our Lord. Power and strength is the Lord.
Amen. Amen. All right. I can do all things through Christ who what? Strengthens me. Absolutely. There's nothing that we as God's people that we cannot do in the name of Jesus. Say, I didn't shake your hand. I snubbed you this morning. Sorry, I'll get you twice after church. But nothing like pointing people out. I get you too. But all right, we can do great things. And we had a great time Friday night. Appreciate the workers in that and stuff. And it was a marvelous testimony. The group was really good. Roy Robertson's grandson was the lead singer. You know Roy Robertson. He's special. He's unique. He's pastor at First Assembly in Holiness. He's just a really neat guy. Even though he does want to preach my funeral. And I'll make a living, you know. Roy also does a poem about the deceased person. It's a beautiful poem. He just has some characteristics that, and so I told him I want to hear the poem before I go, just to make sure it's appropriate and everything. But anyway, look with me in Hebrews chapter 12 as we kind of continue with a theme for the year 2019. Now we'll have to get off of it pretty soon because this is February. My goodness, I can't believe January's gone, it's behind us, and Groundhog Day was yesterday, it's behind us, and we're going to have spring before we know it because the groundhog didn't see his shadow, and you know, so it's a great day. And certainly as we look forward to how God is going to use us as individuals, as Christians, and use us as a church to glorify His name, to lift Him up, to reach out to a lost and dying world, to minister to those that are in need, and do everything for the name of Jesus Christ, that lost people would come to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, that God's people, that we would walk a closer walk with Him, that we would have a closer encounter with Him, or have an encounter with Him, and just live our lives just embraced in the love and in the power and in the authority of Jesus Christ. With that in mind, I think we can find that in Hebrews chapter 12 as we look about the race that we are in while we're here upon this earth. Now, of course, I can understand this. There is a certain establishment, a business in New York, who invited people to make a journey to another planet. There were over 18,000 people who applied for the trip. Now, I can understand wanting to get out of New York. Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to get out of that place? So they interviewed these 18,000 people to see what possessed them, what made them want to travel from planet Earth to another planet. The researchers noted that most just wanted to leave this life and start a new life someplace else because of the discouragement that they faced here on this earth. Now, going to another planet is not going to help with the discouragement. Right. It's not going to do any good whatsoever. Changing things, you know, moving to a different location. It's kind of like Brother Kelly was sharing with me this morning, as you can always tell when I'm talking about Brother Kelly and then Kelly. Yeah. Just kidding. But he was telling me about how that as he's coming to church this morning, there was a cow with its head through the fence, getting the green grass on the other side of the fence. I mean, it seems like the grass is always greener on the other side, and once you get to the other side, it is not so green, is it? I mean, so what we have to do is work where God has placed us. Be where God is working for, causing us to work. And so we understand that from time to time we're going to face discouragement. Some of God's greatest people have had bouts with discouragement. I believe King Solomon, the third king of the nation of Israel, the king who asked for wisdom to lead the Israelite people, had bouts of depression. John Calvin, I mean one of the forefathers of the Reformation period, he wrote, "In addition to the immense troubles by which I am so sorely consumed, there is almost no day on which some new pain or anxiety does not come." Charles Haddon Spurgeon, one of the great preachers of centuries past. I mean, he was the pastor of the cathedral, and I mean, God used him in a mighty way. That was one of the greatest movements of God's people in that place underneath the leadership of Charles Haddon Spurgeon. He went into bouts of discouragement as well. It is said by some of the historians that Spurgeon would go to his home and lock himself up in the bedroom days at a time and not come out. He wrote, "Discouragement creeps over my heart and makes me go with heaviness to my work. It is so dreadfully weakening." And that's what discouragement does. It weakens us. Discouragement keeps us from being able to run the race that is set before us. Discouragement can rob us of the joy of being in the race. Discouragement can bring us to that place where we don't even want to be in the race whatsoever. So what must we do about discouragement? What must we do to get rid of discouragement? Make sure it does not have priority, or not priority, but it does not belittle us, bring us down. That discouragement does not rob us of the victory that is rightfully ours as runners in this race that God has laid before us. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, "For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind." Now, granted, looking at some of you, I wonder about the sound mind. But in other words, He has given us this power to stand up. So how can we stand up against discouragement? Hebrews chapter 12. The first 3 verses of that chapter gives us an idea of what we need to do. He says, "Therefore." Now, again, anytime you run across the word "therefore," you need to know what it's there for. And it's always in reference to something else that has already been said. And in Hebrews chapter 11, it is what we know as the roll call of the heroes of faith. It is known about those men and women who made a stand for God, who would not tilt one way or another, that when God laid something on their heart, they stood firm in that standing, and they obeyed God even if it meant death itself. And therefore, Paul says, since we know about those people in chapter 11, then you and we are surrounded with such a cloud of witnesses. Let us throw off everything that hinders us and the sin that so easily entangles us, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Compassed with such a great cloud of witnesses. Now, there is a thought, and I'll not discourage this thought, that the people in heaven cannot see what is happening and taking place on earth. Because the Bible tells us that there is joy in heaven. And I believe that. And these that hold to this train of thought believe if our loved ones that are in heaven, if the saints of God that are in heaven right now, if they were to look down upon this earth and see what is happening and taking place, that there is actually 7 states. It says that a woman can have an abortion even after the child is born, that would bring sorrow into the presence of heaven. Now, what I see in this verse right here, it says we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. In other words, we have people that have already run the race. We have their history that we've read. We know how they live their lives here on this earth, and that is the witness that we are to live by. Not that it's just some big coliseum and they're in there in heaven and cheering us on and saying, you can do it, you can do it. That their lives that they live here upon this earth is cheering us on and saying, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. They lived by example, and therefore you and I have their lives as an example for you and I to live by. How do we run the race that God has laid before us without being discouraged? First off, he tells us in that verse that we've got to commit to run. Have you ever been to a ball game where neither team wanted to win? I think I would ask for my money back. I mean, don't we want to go to the ball game where both teams want to win? That they're going to give it all they've got to win that game? That they're going to give all they've got and then some? Well, for you and I to run this race that God has laid before us, to keep from being discouraged, we've got to commit to that run. We've got to commit ourselves to that race. Understand? We're going to be discouraged if we get into the race half-heartedly. We're not going to run that race to the full potential if we don't care if we run in the race or not. I think I've shared this with you before. I know I have. Actually, I told somebody not that long ago. When I was roping, we was at this jackpot roping one time, and I saw this horse come into the arena, head down, just barely picking up its hooves, kicking dust up from the arena, walking like an old plow horse. And my thoughts were, what kind of roping horse is that? I mean, that old nag, the guy rode that horse out to the middle of the arena, turned him around to face the roping box. That horse's head perked up, that horse's tail went out, that horse's hooves began to prance. That horse was ready to go to do the job that he was trained to do. My friends, you and I are to get on the starting line in this race that God has laid out for you with the idea, I want to run this race. I want to finish this race, and I'm going to run this race to the best of my ability. And if we do not do that, we're going to have discouragement. There's going to be times when we don't want to be there. But if we go with the idea, I want this. I want this. There was a successful businessman down in Texas. Now, I don't know why all successful people are from Texas, but that's just the way the stories go. And so they sent a newspaper reporter down there to interview him on what he did to become so successful. So the reporter went up to him and he says, I want 5 paragraphs in my column telling the people why are you so successful. And the guy says, I can do it in less time than that. I can do it in 3 words. And then some. The reporter says, what in the world are you talking about? The successful businessman said, I gave it all that I had, and then some more. Maybe 4 words. Yeah, and then some more. That's what we've got to do. To be successful in this race that we're in, we're to give it all that we've got and then some. Now, I want us to do a little experiment. That's always scary, right? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to prepare yourself to hold your breath until I tell you to let it go. Now, what you need to do to prepare to hold your breath is to inhale a time or two and get your lungs all expanded and getting ready and everything. And do that 4 or 5 times. And then on my word, you inhale. And I promise, before some of you pass out, I'll say you can exhale, okay? But I want you to exercise your lungs. And then when I tell you, I want you to take in all the air that you can until you can't take any more in, okay? Are you ready? Give you a few minutes to get ready. Okay, inhale all the air you can and hold it. Inhale again. You got some more, didn't you? Oh, you exhale. Let it out. Now, after you took in all the air that you thought you could not take anymore, you took in some more, didn't you? That is the whole idea of running the race that God has set before us. To keep us from being discouraged, we've got to get into this race with the idea, I'm going to run it with all that I've got, and I'm going to become victorious. I'm going to win this race. And we can do that because Jesus is the author and finisher of our faith. We can do anything through Jesus Christ, who what? Who strengthens us. There's nothing that we as God's people that we cannot accomplish in the name of Jesus Christ. When He lays a task out for us to do, when He leaves a job for you and I to accomplish to do, we'll accomplish it in the name of Jesus. We've got to commit to run. When we commit to run this race, we've got to prepare properly. We've got to get our bodies just right. I hesitate to use these next 3 words, but we've got to shed the weight. We've got to lay aside, is what Paul is telling us. Lay aside the weight that hinders us from running this race. In other words, in that day and time, the runners stripped away everything that was unnecessary. Matter of fact, it said that the runners would run in the nude. They did not want anything to hinder them in this race. Now, I know some of you are picturing that in your minds right now. And we probably don't look behind, and we probably ought to just go ahead and go home right now because you've already, some of you go, oh my goodness. But we are to lay aside. We are to shed the weight that can hinder us. Whatever has more of you than Jesus, set it aside. Whatever has your attention, set it aside. Whatever has your time, set it aside. Whatever has your focus, set it aside. Whatever has your resources, set it aside. This is the baggage that Paul was telling them about. It's not shedding the clothes. It's the things that hinder us from running this race. Paul says, get rid of it. Amen. Jesus is to be first and foremost. We're to be clothed in Jesus Christ to be able to run this race. This excess baggage can bring discouragement. When Jesus has to fight for our time, when He has to fight for our resources, when He has to fight for our attention, we become discouraged. Get rid of it and allow God to have full reign in our hearts, in our lives. Now, let's look at a couple of words right there. And in the King James, I don't know what translation you've got, but we are to shed the sins that entangle us. It uses the word besets us. Now, as Christians, we're not perfect, right? I mean, we're not going to live a perfect life. We're going to sin. We're saved sinners. There are some people that are lost sinners, but you and I are saved sinners. Now, being a child of God does not give us the license to do as we please. Being a child of God does not give us the license to sin. Being a child of God, it says that we've changed our focus, we've turned from the old way of life, and we're following after Jesus Christ. But let's just face it, there are some sins out there that beset us, that we need to lay aside. Now, I don't have to worry about being an alcoholic. But I want you to know you don't take an alcoholic and park him in front of a liquor store. I do not have to worry about being a person that gambles my money away. I work too hard for it to give it to some slot machine. Can I just go ahead and say, those people, those companies, their doors aren't open because they give money away. They're open because they get the money. And every once in a while somebody will win. Just to lure them back. Okay, that's my little soapbox right there. You don't let me go into Daylight Donut. Okay? That is a sin that besets me. I love donuts so much I should have been a policeman. I mean, I love donuts. And I must say, now I love the Ford family. They're great people. Linda used to give me free donuts. A preacher could go into Daylight Donut and you get free donuts. 4 or 5 times a day. You know. But I want you to know they're good today. Yeah. I mean, they make great donuts. They're bigger. They're fluffier. I love donuts. You know, if I'm going on a diet, if I'm going to run a race, you don't take me to Daylight Donut. That's not going to help me set aside that sin that so easily, what? Besets me. You see, we've all got sin that besets us. Right. We may not have the same sin, but there's sin out there that we have to battle every day. And here Paul is telling us to fight discouragement so that we can run the race that is set before us. We've got to get rid of the sin that is ours. Not Michael's sin. I don't need to worry about Michael's sin. I got enough problems of my own. Set aside my sins so that I can run the race. Okay. Page 2. Running the race that is laid before us. Guess what? It requires patience. The idea of the word race right here means struggle or contest. And the idea of the word struggle means agony. When each of us run our own race, we can't run for each other. You can't run for me, I can't run for you. It is my race. It is my struggle. It is my agony. You see, and this race that we're in, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Sure. And to prepare ourselves to run in a marathon. Actually, I'm talking out of turn because I don't have a clue what I need to do to prepare for a marathon. I don't even sprint. You know, but I'm thinking, some of y'all are marathon runners back there. That it just, you don't wake up on a Sunday morning and says, you know what, I think I'm going to go run a marathon. No. I think you prepare your body. And it's in agony. Because you, now I keep telling Marilyn, I won't be one of them things that Chuck Norris works out on. Total gym. Yeah. Now I don't know why. I guess it's something else to hang clothes on or something. I don't know. You know, but he looks pretty good for no coot like that he is, you know. And but how does he get in that shape? Did you hear The Rock when he run for president? No. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. But can you imagine arms like that for a president in the Oval Office? But anyway, moving on. Didn't say I'd vote for him. Just said I heard he's possible. But there's so many running got their hat in the ring right now. But moving on. Okay, so we see that to run this race, we've got to have the patience. And the patience carries the idea of endurance. It's not a short sprint It's for the long haul. See, God expects us, when we take off on the run, when we take off on the finish line, we're to run until we cross, or start off on the starting line. We're to run until we get to the finish line. When is the finish line? When we hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Enter into thy eternal rewards. We're not in it just for when we want to. We're not in this race just if we feel like it. When we became a child of God, we entered the race. And we're in this race until God calls us home. And we can only run this race without the discouragement that the world has when we run it with the idea that we're going to have the patience and the endurance to do it. You see, God doesn't need any Roman candle Christians. A little pop, a little flash, a little burst of excitement, and then nothing. God does not need any Alka-Seltzer Christians. Flop, flop, fizz, fizz, and then there's nothing. He wants Christians in the race, the endurance of the race, for the long haul. And for us to do that, then we've got to shed all the sin that besets us so discouragement will not come upon us. Now, how do we do this? In ancient days, the athlete would prepare his body. Paul says that he subjects his body to the exercise and all that an athlete goes through, that they work hard, they tone their bodies, getting it ready for the race. And when they get on the race, the starting line, the trophy is setting on the finish line. And they keep their eyes on that trophy. You see, that is the whole idea. We have got to stay focused. We've got to stay focused on Jesus Christ. And so as these runners, they would run, and they would run for a crown. Now, this crown is something that people braided together. It had leaves on it. It had little berries on it, and so forth. And guess what? How long do you think that crown lasted? I mean, it's not like the Chili Trophy. That Chili Trophy is going to last and last and last and last and go on and go on. But the trophy that these runners ran for, before long it faded. It dehydrated. And is nothing but dust. Jesus Christ is on the finish line. And we are to focus on Him. And He's not going to deteriorate. He's not going to diminish. He's not going to go away. Focus on Jesus. That is the key right there. That's what we must do. How do we run the race that God has set before us? Looking unto Jesus, who is the author and finisher of our faith. 2 Timothy 4:7. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. You know, there's many that says a good start is what counts. There's many that says a good start out of the gate is what counts. There's many that says a good push off the block on the runner is what counts. I'm not so sure that's true. I'm not so sure it's how you start the race, but how you finish the race. You see, there's been many a runner that had a good start and they stumbled. There's been many a good roping horse that came out of the box and broke the barrier, and they were seconds added to their time. It's not, in my book, how you start. We may start slow. We may start lumbering like an ox or something. It's how we finish the race is what counts. Maybe some of you are thinking, well, I sure wish I started this race 20 years ago. It's how do you start the race today. Chinese proverb. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. My friends, don't think about, I wished I'd started this race years ago. Think about starting the race today. Do away with everything that hinders you. sin that besets you, set it aside. Look to Jesus Christ, focus on Him, and run with patience, run with endurance, and serve. Sure, there's going to be problems, but guess what? God says, I'll take care of you. I'll look after you. I'll lift you up. Every head is bowed. Our Father, as we come before you, we thank you for this day that you give us, for your watch care, your protection, your guidance, your strength. Lord, we ask that you would touch and bless, that you would minister as only you can as we come to this time in our service. Father, that you would speak to us all in a special, unique way. In Jesus' name, amen. As we stand.
In 275.
Let's go ahead and circle around our sanctuary for our closing prayer. Kelly, will you dismiss us, please?
I've got one thing to say. How do you be a marathon runner, mate? We'll hang a donut in front of you.
Got like that mule with the carrot, didn't you? What are you saying? Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
I'll have you thank you for your help for us, Father. Father, let that each and every one that's here this morning. Father, this has to meet their needs. Father, just give you praise and glory, and Father, just look after us during the rest of this week.
That's right.
Thank you.